오는 10월 24일 유엔의 날을 앞두고 6.25 전쟁 당시 피란 수도였던 부산에서 유엔과 한국 전쟁을 주제로 하는 국제 컨퍼런스가 열립니다. 이 컨퍼런스는 미국, 영국, 호주, 독일, 프랑스 등 세계 여러 나라의 학자들 100여 명이 이념과 정치를 떠나 학문적 기반에 따라 한국 전쟁에 대한 다양한 연구 논문을 발표하는 자리입니다. 컨퍼런스에서는 유엔과 한국 전쟁의 관계, 참전국과 정치적, 국제적 이슈, 전쟁을 겪은 군인과 그 가족 등을 집중 조명하면서 특히 역사, 정치, 인류학, 사회학, 전쟁 전략, 인간운동 등 여러 분야에서 다양한 접근이 이뤄지게 됩니다. 피란 수도였던 부산이 평화도시로 변화한 모습 자체가 세계 평화에 대한 상징적 의미가 된다고 합니다. 1950년에서 1953년 사이에 21개국에서 온 180만 명의 군인이 한국 땅에서 싸웠습니다. 많은 사람들이 평화를 위해 목숨을 잃었지만 아직도 그 숫자보다 더 많은 갈등이 남아 있습니다. 그들의 삶은 영원히 바뀌었고 일부는 회복되지 않았습니다. 소수는 자신의 경험에 대해 이야기하기로 했지만 대부분은 이곳에서 일어난 일에 대해 침묵을 지켰습니다. 그리고 많은 사람들이 공산주의를 막는데 소모된 자신의 이야기를 이제 모두가 잊었다고 생각합니다. 이번 컨퍼런스에 참여한 한 다큐 제작자는 귀국 후 60년이 넘은 군인들의 삶에 장기적인 영향을 준 그들의 이야기와 전장 경험을 탐구하는 내용을 그린 다큐를 발표했는데요. 내용을 번역해 소개합니다.
I think of Korea every day. Can't forget it. Combat is not a pleasant experience, and you're scared. And if somebody tells you they're not scared in combat, they're lying because you're scared. That's when you realize that war is hell, and why my thoughts were always just this: if the people that caused these wars, if they had to be on line and do the fighting, there wouldn't be any war.
At age 17, he joined the Army. A few months before his 18th birthday, he came ashore with the forces sent to liberate the capital city.
The first time that I actually fired on anybody, every orifice in my body released some kind of fluid. I crapped my pants, I peed my pants, I threw up, tears come out, my nose ran, and I shook like a leaf. It's hell when you look at somebody and kill them when you're 17 years old.
5th, U.S. forces celebrated Thanksgiving in the frozen wasteland near the reservoir.
We had hot food. I got a canteen cup about half full of coffee, and my hole was probably 50 feet from the chow line. And I'm carrying this can of hot coffee, and before I got to my position, that coffee was froze solid.
Unknown to the troops camped in the vicinity, the Chinese had built up a superior force of nearly 300,000. On the 27th, more than 120,000 of those soldiers attacked the smaller UN force. The buildup had not been detected by U.S. intelligence, and the troops were taken completely by surprise.
Oh, they were noisy. They had whistles and horns and bugles and everything that they blow when they come on the invasion. They had us pinned down there for a while, and then you really didn't think about being a casualty because all you thought about was doing your job and get out of there.
The Chinese People's Volunteer Army used everything at their disposal to carry men and materiel. A few enemy soldiers rode horses into battle. The PVA's ammunition and supplies were carried on the backs of exotic animals.
I was called a liar for a lot of years until finally seen it in print, you know. We were shooting camels, elephants, mules, dogs, anything that could carry anything. It's the first time I'd seen an elephant outside of a circus, you know, and a camel outside of a zoo. It was just mind-boggling.
By February of 1951, Harrison and his battery were sent to Hong Song to support a battle taking place nearby. His job was to secure a bridge west of town, one of the only escape routes for friendly troops.
Just west of the bridge, set up and were immediately under attack. But we held the bridge area. During that day, when we had a fairly dangerous situation, in comes this Corsair pilot, sweeping down over the bridge, right over us, and strafing. And he was so low that I felt his proportion, and his cartridge shells dropped, hit my helmet, and everybody else too, but that was a big help. Broke up that attack at that point. I tried for years after I got back to find that pilot. Never was successful. He may not have made it.
Harrison spent most of his 13 months in Korea on the battle line.
Anybody that says they weren't scared, they're not admitting it. Yes, sure, fear, it's always there. But you just have to overcome it and do your job. You know, a soldier's job is to kill the enemy. That's our primary job.
In March of 1953, the newly minted second lieutenant arrived in Korea and was sent 60 miles northeast of Seoul to Outpost Harry in the Iron Triangle, a site of heavy fighting throughout the war. On June 10th, Buck was sent to observe enemy troops. As night fell, he made his way back to the command bunker to speak with Captain Martin Markley, his commanding officer, and Lieutenant George Richards, the executive officer.
And all of a sudden, the shells just came all over us, you know. The exec officer, he said, they're in the trenches. And that's about the last words he said.
Chinese forces stormed up the hill and trapped the soldiers in the command bunker. Markley and Richards began firing over Buck's head. Buck got on the radio to call for artillery support. At one point, he called in fire directly on their position.
That took a little something that I had never thought of, you know, as just plain suicide.
Before the battle began, Markley, Richards, and Buck had set grenades outside the bunker door. The plan had been to throw the grenades onto attacking troops. The plan backfired. Attacking Chinese soldiers used the grenades against the trapped men.
And they would throw in a grenade, and then they'd try to run in behind it. And for some reason, I don't know why, but I would step around and catch them as they started in, and then they'd throw a grenade, and I'd duck back.
As the Chinese soldiers came through the door, Buck shot each one with his .30 caliber carbine.
It had a lever on it that you could push it forward, and it would fire automatically. And if it wasn't forward, it would fire semi-automatic. So I got, pretty scared, and I pushed that lever forward. I wished I'd never done that, because I went through 130-some rounds, and I was out of ammunition. And that was a problem.
The Chinese troops kept throwing grenades at Buck until his luck ran out.
The grenade that got me, it got my right leg and right arm.
I've had people say, well, you're a hero, and I tell them, the heroes are still there. I'm here. They're my heroes.
Don Stuva spent years wondering if his service in Korea was worth it.
I've often thought to myself, I would never ever want to go through that again or wish anybody else to go through it, and yet the experience there, I realize what it is by far more than I would if I never went through it. And so that's the only good thing I can see about it. You know, I can share that war is hell, and that's but basically avoid it if it's all possible. But I didn't really believe in it because I thought, what good is it? You know, what are we doing here? Why are we fighting? It wasn't until years later when I began to realize the importance of fighting for freedom.
여러분의 소중한 의견을 남겨주세요. 바쁘시더라도 구독과 좋아요 부탁드립니다. 지금까지 단골이시였습니다. 시청해주셔서 감사합니다.